Hello, my dear children. Namaste, and welcome to session 4 of our class in ICSE Biology chapter Genetics. Yes, we've been discussing a lot of complex yet very interesting concepts over the last couple of sessions, and I really hope you have thoroughly enjoyed those sessions. And my sincere hope is that all of you by now are in a very confident position to tackle anything, any problem based question in Mendelian genetics. Okay, so let's now move ahead one step further, and today we will be looking at another concept more related to human beings. Yes, we've come out of the P garden, Mendel's P garden, and it's time to explore inheritance in our own lives. Okay, but before that, something positive. Let's always remember this beautiful affirmation. You are powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and brave. Yes, because we are unique and beautiful just the way we are. You and I, all of us are unique. And that's exactly what makes us us. And we are good just the way we are. Right? So let's remember this, children. Basically, it just means that you need to be optimistic, and you can just keep this around if you think that if you, especially I know class 10 and lockdown and things like that, 2020 unfortunately has been a huge turnover of a lot of events in our personal lives as well. So in case there is any day when you feel a little low, I would strongly suggest don't make any major decision on that day about anything. Just relax, let your mind to relax, and read this affirmation. Okay? You are very special just the way you are. All of us need you, right? All of us are special. And let's move ahead. Homework question from the previous session. A pure tall plant bearing red colored flower was crossed with a dwarf pure plant with white flowers. Given that tallness and red flowers are the dominant traits, what would be the nature of offspring in the F1 generation? Now, when I say pure, it means they are homozygous. Okay, so and I have also mentioned that tallness and red flowers are the dominant traits. So this is one parent. This is the genotype of the other parent, the parents. What would be the types of gametes they produce? Yes, this is for one parent, this is for the other parent. Okay, so here we go, fertilization, which means they are both coming together and forming the F1 generation, which is double heterozygous, but phenotypically they are all producing tall plants which are red flowers, red flowered. Okay, so here we go. Let's look at who has given me the answers. The first correct answers. The very first answer came from Komal, who says homework is all tall and red flowers. Thank you very much, Komal, for saying that session was amazing as well. Very happy to know that, my dear. And then we have Dharmendra, who says the same thing, tall and red flowers. Hemlata also says F1 generation look tall and they contain red flowers. Thank you, ma'am, for the homework. Okay, you're welcome, Hemlata, and everyone else who likes to solve questions like this based on Mendelian genetics. And let's get going. Here, this is just a formal explanation to the homework question. I think we've already solved it. So just in case you need like proper steps for reference, here it is. Okay, so today let us learn about the next two concepts: sex-linked inheritance and pedigree analysis. Okay. As far as your syllabus is concerned, of course, sex-linked inheritance is very important. Pedigree analysis is usually like direct questions based on pedigree analysis don't come in ICSE exams, but then charts may be given to you in your section B, like some question in section B, which is based on this chapter, might give you some kind of a pedigree chart and make you answer questions based on that. So it's definitely a useful concept to know, pedigree analysis. It will also help strengthen your understanding of sex-linked inheritance better. Okay, children, so my personal suggestion is watch this entire video, and at the end of it, in case you have some confusion in sex-linked inheritance, come back to it and watch it again, because understanding of pedigree helps you understand sex-linked inheritance also a little better. Okay, so let's move ahead. Remember, I've been telling you in the last few sessions and even in chapter 1 of your syllabus that there are two types of chromosomes in a human cell. autosomes and sex chromosomes. Each of our diploid cells has 44 or 22 pairs of autosomes and two sex chromosomes, or rather one pair of sex chromosomes, which is the last 23rd pair. Look at that. The autosomes are pairs 1 to 22. Sex chromosomes are either two X chromosomes in females, or in the case of a male diploid cell, it would be one X chromosome and one Y chromosome. What about in the case of gametes? Gametes are haploid, right? And remember why we are showing it paired, right? Because they are homologous pairs. You get one member of a homologous pair from your mom, the other member of a homologous pair from your dad. Whereas when your gametes are formed, in case you're female, your egg cells, all your egg cells would contain half of this, which means instead of 22 pairs, it would have 22 autosomes plus one X chromosome, right? What about in the case of a male? A male would produce two types of sperms. Half of the sperms, roughly about half of the sperm, would contain 22 autosomes and an X chromosome, while the remaining half would contain 22 autosomes plus a Y chromosome. Okay, remember I told you about sex determination also. If this X carrying sperm fertilizes the ovum, it would result in a baby girl. If the Y carrying sperm fertilizes the ovum, it results in a baby boy. Okay, so two types of sperm, one type of egg. But remember, gametes are all haploid and all of them contain only 22 autosomes and one sex chromosome, right? And here we go. After having a quick recap of that, let's see how many of you can understand these questions. Dash among the parents is the one whose gamete decides the gender of the progeny. Father, mother, ancestors, both mother and father. Your time is up. Yes, the answer is father. I told you sperm are of two types. If the X carrying sperm fertilizes it, it's a girl. If the Y carrying sperm fertilizes the egg, it's a boy. Okay. Of both father and mother, who has a homozygous sex chromosome? Okay. Father, mother, both are homozygous, none of these. Remember what homozygous means, a homozygous genotype. As far as sex chromosomes are concerned, where would you find this condition? And your time is up. The answer is mother, because mother or females in general would have two X chromosomes. Both the chromosomes are similar, whereas males would have one X and one Y chromosome. Now, an ovum would contain which of these? Okay, and your time is up. The answer is 22 autosomes and an X chromosome. Okay, 22 autosomes and a Y chromosome. Would be a sperm, definitely. Either A or B. The answer would be true if the question was about a sperm. A sperm would contain either A or B. Option D is definitely not true because this is the condition in a diploid female cell. Okay, well done, children. And with that understanding, let's move ahead and let's remember that types of genetic traits can be classified as autosomal or sex-linked. Now you know what autosomes are, what sex chromosomes are, right? Based on that understanding, we will be able to make better sense of this concept. Every trait that we have, every characteristic feature that we exhibit, I've been telling you from the start of this chapter that we inherit it from our parents, right? So totally, there are two major types, major categories of genetic traits. Those whose genes, for example, the genes which are responsible for certain features are carried only by the autosomes. You know that genes are carried by the chromosomes, right? If this is the chromosome, chromosomes would have many genes. Likewise, on every chromosome in your body, there are various genes, each of them responsible for many different traits that we exhibit. So remember the 1 to 22 pairs of autosomes. There are many characters, regardless of the number of characters, the characters or traits which are the traits whose genes are present on the autosomes are what we call autosomal traits. Okay, the traits whose genes are present on the sex chromosomes are called sex-linked traits. right? So, regardless of whether it's autosomal or sex linked, autosomal can either be dominant or recessive, like we have seen in the case of the pea plant, also. Even in the case of the humans, I think. Like eye color, for instance, you may certain eye colors are said to be dominant over some other eye colors. Okay, just as we have seen in the case of the pea plant. What about sex linked? Now there are two types of sex chromosomes, right? We have an X chromosome, and males also have a Y chromosome. Some genes are carried only by X chromosomes. Okay, some genes are carried only by Y chromosomes. Some genes may be common between both X and Y chromosomes. You will understand more of it as we go deeper into today's session. So, X linked chromosomes can either be dominant or recessive. Y linked, I don't want to write that, and I will tell you the reason also towards the end of the session. X linked genetic traits can either be dominant or recessive. Likewise for autosomal also. Now, according to our syllabus, we have to understand mainly about X-linked recessive traits. Okay, there are a couple of examples which are there according to your syllabus. We'll be focusing mainly on that. Now, sex-linked inheritance. Who is responsible for the inheritance of the trait? Is it the father? Is it the mother? In general, you know what, just an interesting thing. In general, if the child exhibits some very, very smart quality, both the mother's family and the father's side of the family would be like, oh, yes, everyone in our family has always been like this. Yes, everyone in our family has always been a singer, which is why the child is also like that. But if there is something like a very bad trait which you see in a child, both the mother's side and the father's side would be like, no, 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 no child in our family is like that. It must have come from the other family. It must have come from the father's family. Likewise, father's family might also say the same thing. So, who is actually responsible for the inheritance of these traits? Let's try and understand that. Regardless of all of that, jokes apart, sex-linked inheritance, let's recall, is the inheritance of a trait by an allele on the X chromosome or the Y chromosome. As you can see, it's very, very evident from this picture itself. X chromosomes are a much larger than the Y chromosomes in structure. Y chromosomes actually carry only very few genes on them. X chromosomes have certain unique genes also, okay, which the Y chromosomes don't have, which is why we segregate sex-linked inheritance into two categories, X-linked and Y-linked. Okay, so let us try and understand a few examples of Y-linked inheritance. You might have noticed that baldness, okay, male pattern baldness is found only in men. Of course, I know it's a nightmare for many young men these days, and there is even like a hairstyle that one of the Malayalam film industry heroes brought in, and then that is said to be like partially something similar to what you see in Image 2, but of course not at the back, but on the two sides. Some of you might know this. Malayalis there, of course, might know this. Rest of you might not. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, in general, because young men these days face this problem, men may at times wonder, why is it that it affects only us? Why don't women get this? Baldness as such is said to be, unfortunately, a male trait. That is because the genes for baldness, male pattern baldness, is found only on the Y chromosome. Okay, which is why baldness, if it runs in your father's family, father's side of the family, there's quite a good chance that you might also become bald in future sometimes. Of course, there can be exceptions. That's a different thing. But then, why I'm saying this is because in men, you have an X chromosome and a Y chromosome, right? You always get your Y chromosome only from your father. Mother contributes your X chromosome. Okay, so in case there is any defect in the genes of the Y chromosome in your father's side of the family, there is quite a chance that you would also inherit it. Male pattern baldness is just an example of that. Okay, but you might also have seen certain cases where some women also exhibit this, but then that's nothing to do with the genetic trait. That is more of a case of an imbalance of sex hormones which are there in some women's bodies. Okay, hair thinning is a different thing. I'm talking specifically about male pattern baldness. This, what you see in this picture here, is what I'm saying is an example of a Y-linked trait. What about examples of X-linked inheritance? There are a lot of them. Some of them are disorders, which you can see here. Some of them are like normal characteristic features. But the genes for ocular albinism, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, androgen insensitivity, severe combined immune deficiency, hemophilia, color blindness, all of these, the genes for all of these are found on the X chromosome. Does it mean it affects only females? No, it affects both males and females, because males do have an X chromosome as well, right? But females are not affected by Y-linked traits because females don't have a Y chromosome. As simple as that. Now, inheritance of a trait by an allele on the X chromosome is what we mean by X-linked inheritance. The two examples which are there in your ICSE syllabus are two X-linked disorders, hemophilia and color blindness. Let's try and understand them one at a time. The hemophilia is an X-linked disorder in which blood cannot clot normally. We know that when we have a wound somewhere, like a cut in our hand or anywhere on the skin, within like a few minutes, or maybe depending on the depth of the wound, it may take a few hours or a few days also sometimes, the wound, I mean, it'll stop bleeding because a clot is formed normally, right? But then in a person affected with hemophilia, blood doesn't clot very easily. Blood doesn't clot normally. This is because the procedure of blood clotting inside that person's blood is not functioning normally. And why doesn't it function normally? Because of a defective gene found in the X chromosome, which is running in the family. This is a purely genetic disease, not like you get it because of some pathogen or something like that. No, it's a genetic disease. Okay, so this is a normal blood vessel. Bleeding starts in hemophilia, incomplete fibrin clot, which means bleeding just continues. A plug or a clot cannot be formed normally. Okay, completed fibrin clot would look like this. Right, so this is about what hemophilia is. And one interesting thing we must know is that whenever we think about hemophilia, the most famous example is that of Queen Victoria's family. Queen Victoria, who was the very famous queen of the royal family of England, right? The British royal family. So she was said to have suffered from this disorder, and many of her upcoming generations also inherited this disorder from her. Okay, then comes red-green color blindness. What happens is, this is not like a life-threatening disorder. Unlike hemophilia is more dangerous, right? Because blood clots cannot be formed, bleeding just continues, so that can result in death if it's very severe. But in red-green color blindness is a defect, but then it's not life-threatening. So it's basically again an X-linked recessive disorder in which the affected person has a reduced ability to distinguish between certain colors. Most of the time, between red and green, they find it difficult to distinguish. You may find it very strange, but the statistics that if you just look up online, you would find that there is quite a huge population across the world that suffers from this disorder. Okay, red-green color blindness. So when is it a dangerous thing? I think when, especially in places like traffic signals, when there is a red color and a green color, in case you're red-green color blind, you might in 1 second or within a fraction of a second, you might get confused. Is it the red light which is there or the green light which is there? You might get a little bit of confusion, especially when there is huge traffic behind you. You might not be sure whether to just go on or just apply your brakes. Those are the situations where such a disorder can be a little dangerous. Okay, but otherwise, yes, most people, I think, I personally don't know anyone who suffers from red-green color blindness. But then, if you actually ask people around, there might be some people who find it difficult to distinguish between certain colors, especially between red and green. Okay, so I told you X-linked recessive disorder. Even in the case of hemophilia, it was an X-linked recessive disorder. What does that mean? Now, by now, I'm sure you have understood, you are familiar with the terms dominance and recessiveness based on our examples of Mendelian inheritance. Okay, so do keep that in mind. We are going to be applying that very soon. Now, this will help you know whether you are red-green colorblind or not. Okay, a red-green color blindness test, which you can perhaps take. Have a look at it. It's a very interesting one. I just wanted to show it to you. That's it. Of course, it's not a live session, unfortunately. Otherwise, I could have like interacted with you and asked you how many of you see only red, or how many of you see green, or what colors you see in general. So just look at this and see for yourself. Maybe it can act as a preliminary test. Okay. For any sex-linked recessive trait, children, individuals may either be affected, carriers, or unaffected. Whenever we are talking about any genetic disorder, an individual can either be affected, carrier, or unaffected. What is a carrier? Affected and normal, all of you would know. Who is a carrier? A carrier is an individual, just like the heterozygous. Remember this example? Yes, it phenotypically this was tall, although it carried the recessive allele. Likewise, carriers for a genetic disease are those individuals who carry one defective allele, but physically they are normal. Okay, they just have one copy of the defective allele, and because of that, they don't have any symptoms. Physically, they are healthy people, but it's just there genetically, which means their children can also inherit it, because genetically, these people are also having it. This is about affected, carrier, and unaffected. This is about sex-linked recessive traits, children. Now, do remember, affected, for a person to be called affected, he or she will have to have either this genotype or this genotype. Okay, if the affected person is a male, for example, we are talking about color blindness, say for instance, color blindness, because it's a sex-linked recessive trait, we would represent it, the gene, like this, X, because it's carried by the X chromosome, and a small letter C, okay, as a superscript. So in case a male is affected with color blindness, this would be the male's genotype. A male has only one X chromosome. A male doesn't have a complementary X chromosome along with this, because of which just one copy of the gene is enough to make a male affected. Males in X-linked recessive traits hence cannot be carriers. Either this would be their genotype, or a healthy male would have the normal genotype. In case this X chromosome in a male carries the gene for color blindness, the genotype becomes this, which means males are either normal or affected. Males cannot be carriers. Okay, you will understand more of this as we go deeper into the section, children, not to worry. Whereas females, when they are affected, it has to be this. It's a recessive trait. Remember, for a recessive trait to be expressed, it should be in homozygous condition, which is exactly why dwarfness in Mendel's experiment could be expressed only in this condition. Right? If it was a heterozygous condition, physically they were tall. Likewise, in the case of a female, if she has one affected allele and the other X chromosome where the corresponding allele is normal, this would be her genotype, which means because it's a recessive allele, because it's a recessive gene, it's just genetically there, but physically it's not able to express itself. The healthy X chromosome is masking the effect of this recessive defective allele, because of which physically this female is fine, fit and fine. We call her a carrier, carrying just one copy of the defective gene. Okay, what about unaffected females and unaffected males? Of course, an unaffected female would be XX, unaffected males would be XY. Always remember, children, from this what we infer is females can either be affected, carrier, or unaffected or normal. Males are either affected or unaffected. Males cannot be carriers as far as X-linked recessive traits are concerned. Okay, now have a look at this. This is an example of a chart showing the inheritance of an X-linked recessive disorder. This particular example you see is a cross between an affected father and a normal mother. Okay, affected father and a normal or an unaffected mother. Okay, have a look at it, which means the father's genotype is this, mother's genotype is this. Okay, if that was the case, let's just try and work it out here. XCY and XX, which means the father would produce these types of gametes, right? XC is in one gamete, Y could be found in other sperm. Whereas all the gametes that the mother produces would be healthy. Let's draw a Punnett square to make things easier for us. XC, X, XC, X again, XY, XY. Okay, what does this tell us? It means that these are the sons of this couple. Sons are all unaffected. XY. Sons are inheriting only the Y chromosome from their father. So obviously, even without working out this Punnett square, children, the more you work out problems like these, the more you will be confident about working it out in just one step. Just apply the logic that the affected father, because it's an X-linked defect that he has, all his sons will be healthy, considering that the mother is normal as well. Because sons are inheriting X chromosome from their mother, so it's healthy, of course, because she is normal, and they are inheriting the Y chromosome from their father. Y chromosome is perfectly fine for the father. Whereas daughters are inheriting one X chromosome from the mother and one X chromosome from the father. And obviously, because the father is able to contribute only one type of X chromosome to the daughters, all of those are the defective allele, which means all the daughters are carriers, XCX. This one inherited from the father, this one inherited from the mother. And since it is a recessive allele, recessive gene, the mother's healthy X chromosome is masking the effect of the gene contributed by the father, which is why all the sons are unaffected, all the daughters are carriers. You know what, one common question children ask me when I show them this chart, ma'am, this is showing a family in which they have 2 sons and 2 daughters. What if they have only 1 child? Or what if they have more than 4 children? Let me just sort that also. Remember children, when I say this is how it will be, it means that how many ever children the couple has, with every pregnancy, the same rule applies. Which means with every time the couple is trying to conceive a child, depending on whether it's a boy or a girl, of course, whether they are going to be having girls, all the girls will be carriers. It may be 1 girl, 2 girls, 3 girls, we don't know. All the girls will be carriers according to the genetic information we can gather from this. How many ever sons they may have, be it 1 son, 3 sons, 2 sons, whatever, all of them would be unaffected, even genetically, considering that the mother is normal and father is the only affected one. Okay, so this is an example of an X-linked recessive disorder which runs in a certain family. Now here is another one which shows a cross between a normal father and the carrier mother. Okay, normal father, which means the genotype is XY. Okay, and the mother carries a defective allele for hemophilia. Okay, it's written as pink X and a black X, but then if you have to write it in your exam, you can write the father's genotype this way and the mother's genotype this way. Okay, a small letter H which will represent the defective X chromosome, and work out the possible combinations. You would see that there are, among the sons, what do you see? 50% of all the sons that they have would be healthy. The remaining 50% would be affected with hemophilia. I told you, men can only be affected or normal. They can't be carriers in the case of X-linked recessive traits. Whereas, what about their daughters? Daughters can either be carriers, 50% of their daughters would be carriers, 50% of their daughters would be healthy, okay, would be fit and fine. But then phenotypically, all of their daughters would be healthy. But some of their daughters, 50% of their daughters, might have the unhealthy X chromosome inherited from the mother. Okay, so again, it might be a little confusing. What if this couple has more children or less number of children? The same rule applies. What I'm trying to say is that with every pregnancy, the possibility of their sons having hemophilia is going to be 1 out of 2. There is 50% chance that with every pregnancy, their son will have hemophilia. Okay, so nothing else, and then the couple has to decide whether or not to go ahead and have children. That's completely up to them to decide, but then a genetic counselor will be there to examine the genetic history of both the families, and they will advise them based on all this data that look at this. If this is the data based on the fact that father is normal and mother is a carrier, there is a 50% chance for your sons to be affected, 50% chance for your sons to be normal. Whereas if you're going to be having daughters, 50% of them can be carriers, 50% of them may be completely healthy. Okay, there is quite a good chance that all of their sons may be completely healthy. If all of them have inherited only the healthy X chromosome and the Y chromosome from their parents, all of their sons can be healthy. It can also happen that all of their sons can be hemophilic. What if the mother contributed the defective X chromosome to all her sons? Then this might be the case. Likewise for the daughters, all their daughters can be carriers for hemophilia. All the daughters that they have might be healthy as well. But then what we are saying is 50% is only the probability. It can be either this or that. Whenever you toss a coin, it can either be heads or tails. It's just a matter of chance. Likewise here also. Okay, these are the possibilities, but you can have any of these, is what the genetic counselor would tell this particular couple. So I think, children, this must have made it clear to you. With that, let's quickly answer a few questions and then go on to pedigree analysis. Question number 1. Dash looks physically normal but can be affected genetically. What do you think? Unaffected, affected, carriers, none of these. Your time is up. The answer is carriers. Okay, next one. Dash is an example of an X-linked inheritance. Okay, and your time is up. Hemophilia. Sickle cell anemia is actually an example of an autosomal inheritance. Okay, because the gene for sickle cell anemia is carried by the autosomes in the human body. Male pattern baldness, example for Y-linked inheritance. Now, which of these represents a carrier of hemophilia? Have a look at it carefully and tell me the answer. No random answers allowed, children. And your time is up. The answer is XHX. Why is A not an answer? A is not an answer because obviously it refers to an affected male. Right. Okay. And there we go. Well done with all the answers. Now, children, coming to something very, very important. And after this, I also want to continue with pedigree analysis. So do stay with me. But here are a few important things that I want to tell you. All of these problems that you guys are likely facing in today's world of online education, I mean, all kinds of training and everything else, school and everything happening online, unanswered doubts, improper access to notes, tests and assignments, competitive exam preparation, choice of schedule, choice of language, all of these, we have got them all sorted for you at our end, along with giving you a few bonuses like unlimited live classes, all micro and crash courses, performance reports, personalized attention, and what not. Okay, so all you have to do is visit vdnt.in/ytpro to make the best use of all the courses that we have, both in terms of quality and in terms of price. So I'll just quickly guide you through it step by step. You will, once you visit, click on that link and go into the website, you will be guided through these steps. The first one, it will ask you to select the grade. So I'm assuming it's going to be grade 10 for you guys. And the target you have to select is ICSE 2021. Okay, and once you mark your target, you will be given all the details of the Vedantu Pro courses, which I have told you already, and of course a lot more of our amazing features which are listed out here, which you can go through and you will get a better idea about it. What do you do next? You can click on the button Get Subscription. And now comes the big question of pricing. So we've got all of this covered here for you so that everything is transparent, children. Vedantu Pro courses, subscription courses, have either a 1 month subscription, or you can go for a 3 months of subscription, or you can go for a 6 months of subscription. So a 1 month subscription, wherein for 1 full month you have unlimited access to all of these features that I have told you. Okay, it normally costs you 2,699 without any voucher, without any discounts or offers. But then you can apply the coupon code AMBPRO, which will reduce this amount payable to 2,294.15 for a 1 full month of subscription. Then for 3 months, okay, you have unlimited access to all these features for full 3 months, which means amount payable would be 6,999, whereas application of the same coupon code AMBPRO reduces it to 5,949.15. Unlimited access to all of this for 3 full months. For 6 months of subscription, which means basically you want to be tension free for the rest of this academic year, I would say, because we are in the month of September now. So if that's the case, for the next 6 months, you will have unlimited access to all of these features for an amount of, normally without discounts, it's going to be 11,499. But application of this voucher, AMBPRO, reduces it to 9,774.15. Remember, children, this amount is for unlimited access to all of these for 6 full months. Do the math for yourself. The total amount payable, I have given it to you. I have done my job. Divide it by the number of sessions you can possibly avail through this subscription of 6 months, and calculate how much it will cost you per session. That is the smartest way of checking whether this is going to be pocket friendly or not. Otherwise, you're perhaps making a bad choice. Okay, do this for yourself and make your choice. I'm quite confident that all of these will certainly benefit you and help you bring the best of your education. Okay, now coming to the last concept, pedigree analysis. What does it mean? Digging deep into the family history. That's about it. I told you earlier about genetic counselor who might be able to advise a couple about the chances that their sons or daughters would be affected or normal considering a particular genetic disease. Because, for instance, consider a couple wherein the husband is normal or the wife has a family history of a certain genetic disease. It can be anything, not just hemophilia or color blindness. There are a lot of other genetic disorders which have been known to be part of the genes running in a lot of families. So in case there is a family like that, a couple, before they start their own family, they might want to visit a genetic counselor who might be able to give them like appropriate data as to what are the chances that their sons or daughters would inherit this or would be healthy. Okay, this is where pedigree analysis and pedigree charts actually come in as a very, very useful tool. Right. So these are the symbols which are commonly used in a pedigree chart. Children, according to the ICSE 10 syllabus, you don't have to know all of them, but some very important ones I'll tell you. You must know that squares are represented by, are representing males. Okay, females are represented by circles. Mating is represented by this horizontal line between a square and a circle. Now, parents and children, if you have to like represent one full family, like you saw in that cartoon pedigree chart I showed you earlier, this is how it would be, like from left to right. Left represents child number 1, second one represents child number 2, and you go on towards right in the order of birth of the further children in the family. Okay, and then this is about dizygotic twins. Okay, dizygotic twins, which means fraternal twins, monozygotic twins, which would be identical twins. Okay, this represents like number of children. Affected individuals, very importantly, are represented by shaded circles and squares respectively for males and females. Sometimes for carriers, half shaded squares and circles are used. Many people don't use it, but then some pedigree charts do use that. Carrier of sex-linked inheritance, it is said that, like again, some charts use it like this, but not extremely common, I would say. This one, wherein there is a symbol like a square or a circle with a crossed line, indicates that the person is no more. The person in that family indicates deceased, as in doesn't live anymore, not alive anymore. And then this is about a spontaneous abortion. This is a consanguineous marriage, which means marriage between closely related cousins and things like that. It's quite common in India. Of course, used to be common in olden times. These days also sometimes it happens. This is where the sex is unknown. Sex of an individual is unknown. It could be in the case of an abortion or something like that, wherein we don't know whether the baby was a male or a female. Okay, so the most important features, the most important symbols you have to know are the normal male, the female, the mating one, this one as well, the parents and children, and then affected individuals and the carriers. Okay, these definitely you must know. Rest of it is secondary. Okay, now characteristics of X-linked recessive disorders. I have told you about X-linked recessive disorders already, but based on this pedigree chart, compare the steps given here, compare the points given here with the pedigree chart, and it will make much better sense to you. As far as an X-linked recessive disorder like color blindness or hemophilia is concerned, the gene is always transmitted from mother to son or father to daughter. So we call it crisscross inheritance. Mother, and there is the father, and we have the daughter, and we have the sons. Mother to sons and father to daughter normally. Why so? Because fathers always contribute their X chromosomes only to their daughters. They don't contribute the X chromosome to their sons. Okay? Daughters might get it from their mothers as well, but fathers are likely to give it only to their daughters. Okay? So in general, we say it's an example of crisscross inheritance. It skips generations, which means because it is a recessive trait, remember Mendel's example, the tall and dwarf, remember this one, let me just write that for you so that it's easier for you to recall. In the F1 generation, all of them were tall. Whereas in the F2 generation, there were three tall individuals to every dwarf individual or a short individual, which means the trait that was not seen in one generation reappeared in the grandchild's generation, skips generations basically. This is true with recessive traits. And here we are talking about X-linked recessive disorders. If it's there in one generation, normally it skips the next generation and is visibly seen in the generation coming after that. Okay. Now, men are either normal or affected. They cannot be carriers. I have made this very clear to you. Okay, so let us move ahead and look at a few questions based on this last concept. Dash uses family tree to analyze source of genetic disorder. Children, this will be analyzed, okay, to analyze the source of genetic disorder. Monohybrid cross, dihybrid cross, Punnett square, pedigree analysis. Super easy, and your time is up. It is pedigree analysis, of course, family tree. Next one, this symbol, what does it stand for in pedigree analysis? I told you a symbol struck off with a diagonal line represents dash. And your time is up. The answer is deceased or a dead person, a person who is no more. Okay. Which of these is not true about X-linked recessive diseases? Males are more likely to be affected. Females cannot be carriers. Sons inherit from mothers. None of these. Which of these is not true? Which means you have to select the false statement from these. Okay? And your time is up. Yes, option B is the answer because that's a false statement. Females can be carriers. Right. What about option A? Why does it say males are more likely to be affected? For the simple reason that males have only one X chromosome, unlike females. In females, if there is only one copy of the defective gene, there is always a chance of a healthy X chromosome to be there to mask the effect of this one. Whereas in a male, if there is one copy of the defective gene, there is no corresponding healthy X chromosome to mask its effect, which means males are either males are either affected or normal, but females, they can be one of the three, which are affected, carriers, or unaffected. This is why in general we say males are more likely to be affected. Okay, and well done, children. That brings us to the end of this concept and sex determination. Yes, we had a quick recap of it today and we learned it in detail in one of our earlier sessions as well. Sex-linked inheritance and pedigree analysis. So we are Pakka. I'm hoping you are thorough with these concepts now. Do remember to visit vdnt.in/YTPRO and apply the coupon code AMBPRO so that you can avail the best offers that we have in all the courses that are available out there. Pro subscription courses. So children, this is my homework for you today. Again, a problem-based one. I'm a fan of math and biology, as I always say. So I love to give problem-based questions in bio as much as possible. Find out the progeny of a marriage between a hemophilic man and a carrier hemophilic woman. Yes. Figure out what their genotypes would be. Then go on. Use a Punnett square or however it's easier for you and tell me the answer. Let's see who's coming up with the answer first. Okay, and thank you very much, children. If you have found this session useful, please do remember to hit the like button right now and please share it with all your class 10 ICSE friends, and I would suggest your class 12 NEET aspirants as well, because this concept is very, very important even for NEET aspirants. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to our channel Vedantu 9th and 10th English yet, please do hit the subscribe button right now and of course the bell icon right next to it so that you don't miss out on any of the important notifications that you may get from our channel. Every single day we keep coming up with newer and newer videos for all your major subjects, right? And you can also reach out to me through email as you have always been doing. Until we meet again, children, this is Ambika signing off. Take care, stay happy and stay healthy. Bye-bye.